Welcome back to Odds of War. Today we've got another specialist focus video. We're going to be talking about how to get the most out of your leaders. Stay tuned. So leader is one of those interesting specialisms, and of course that it must be included in every single kill team. So you probably feel like you have a good idea of how to use your leader, but we might get a couple good examples here for you that might give you some ideas. So basically, I like to think of leaders in two varieties. One, you are leaders that sit back and don't do anything except garner you command points. And then I think of leaders as counter charge and forward melee threats. And a lot of leaders can be one or the other or fall somewhere in the middle. So we're going to have a couple little sample kill teams set up to show that, and we'll give you a couple of examples of how to utilize them. Before we do that, though, if you like these videos, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. Let us know down in the comments what you like to do with your leaders and that sort of stuff. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in any way, shape, or form, there's a bunch of ways to do so down in the description below. Chief amongst those are Patreon, where we've got a cool narrative battle report series going on right now. All right, without any further ado, let's look at the kill teams and the leader specialism. All right, guys, we're all set up here with our groups of our leaders and some lackeys in the back. And before we go over them exactly, let's just talk the leader specialism exactly. Most match play things are going to only be playing with level 1. So, of course, the level 1 leader trait, as most of you guys know, is resourceful. As long as this model's on the battlefield and not shaken, you gain an additional command point at the beginning of the battle round. And you have access to the leader tactic, lead by example. Use this tactic when you pick a leader from your kill team to fight in the fight phase. Choose another friendly model within 3 inches of them that is eligible to fight, and you can fight with each of these models in an order of your choice before the next player's turn. So let's look over what we have here for leaders. All right, for the Orcs, we've got our leader Lumps there. He's a specific type of leader that we'll be talking about today, and he's backed up by some guys here, a Flashgit, a Commando, Boss Knob, and just a boy. We've got, of course, Sister Juliet here, backed up by a Sister Rapentia and a normal sister. We've got Monarch Tooth, the Master of Works, backed up by a Rubric Marine and a Zangor. We've got Yorl Kraus here, backed up by the Anvil and Xanthan. Then we've got the Admech over here. We've got a Vanguard leader, backed up by an Infiltrator and another Vanguard. And then for our Harlequins over here, we've got a leader backed up by just another player. So we just wanted to show off. These are basically our different channel teams here, and they sort of all have different abilities. So the big thing that I look for when I'm thinking about leaders is I'm either going to go one of two directions, okay? Now, Lumps here represents the one direction, which is that I'm not even going to try to get value out of this lead by example, and I'm just keeping them around for resourceful, okay? So he's super cheap, he's super small, so he's easy to hide, and I'm just going to basically hide him all game and reap the command points. Now, Sister Juliet falls somewhere in the middle there, and then the rest of these guys here fall into the other camp of leader, which is not only am I going to protect them to keep gaining the resourceful trait, I'm also going to look at some point to potentially leverage lead by example, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a second. All right, so we have our board set up just for ease of our examples here, just some line of sight blocking pieces, some difficult terrain, etc., etc. Just this isn't maybe a perfectly populated board as far as terrain goes, but it's good enough for our example work here, so we'll be using that. The two big things that we're going to look for to do is leveraging our special trait and then leveraging our special tactic for the leader. We're going to show you how to do that here in just a second. So when we're thinking about how to leverage our leader best in deployment, let's just say for a moment that our deployment zones are here and here. All right, we're going to use we'll use the Orcs here for a bit. All right, you've got two options when you're deploying. Your first option is to deploy your leader first thing, right? We're going to set him here behind this line of sight blocking piece of terrain. Of course, this does give your opponent information, but now they know where you're going to go, so they might start focusing that, so you can start to put other more potentially scary units of your army out in other areas as your opponent is trying to deploy to try to get to your leader here. The other option is, of course, to remember that everybody gets to move before the first shooting phase. So you could potentially do something like this, deploy your leader out here in the open. Okay, again, talking about an early deployment. Deploy your leader out here in the open, wait for the inevitable reaction from your opponent, get all deployed, and then on your turn one, once you see everything, you have your option of you can move back here with your movement, or you can move out this way, whichever is more advantageous to counter your opponent's plan. Now, we're just going to say we've done that, okay? And we'll skip on to the next one. The other thing you can do with your leader, especially if you are going this sort of like just hide in the back approach, is to hold your leader as one of the absolute last deployment pieces. So then you can fully see, let's say the Cult of the Fanged Shadow here has deployed heavily. Again, we'd have more models in an actual game, but let's say they've deployed heavily over to this side, and you also, you've also deployed heavily over to this side, for example. Okay, and then you have the last drop, and you take your leader and you put him all the way over here. Now your opponent's entire force is out of position to try to deal with your leader at all. You're behind a line of sight blocking piece, so you can comfortably just reap those command points all game long like this. So just to show off what I like to do with a leader type like lumps, which is I think what a lot of people do with their leaders. We've got them hidden back here behind a line of sight blocking piece of terrain. We've got a small sort of bodyguard model back here, which we'll explain just in a bit. And our other two models are just deployed out along the front here. Now, of course, in a full game, you'll have many more models than this if you're playing something like Orcs. But this is just for ease of example purposes. Over across the way, we've just got the Thousand Suns set up over here, just as a attacking, force. So, explaining our thought process, of course, first and foremost, we've set up our leader here. Okay, he's out of line of sight, so he can't get shot. He can't get attacked by psychic powers, and he's going to have a hard time getting charged because we've got a forward element here for our list. Okay, now the small boy here in the back is because you're not always going to have a piece of terrain that's like perfectly in the back corner or something to hide behind. Usually your terrain's going to be forward up, and you might leave a pocket back here, which this is the only failing part of this sort of tactic, is that if you have a large enough space in the back, you actually might find your opponent dropping in a tactical reserves here on you, and then having direct line of sight into your weak leader. So that's why you have your one also cheap bodyguard unit here. So if we have lumps hiding back here, we put, we know, okay, so maybe this is, 5 inches out, and no one can come in, and no one can really come in here because we've placed here that they can't get in here, so they have to come out on this side. And then we use our bodyguard piece to go ahead and block out that side. So that's just some real basic screening. So if the opponent wants to come in with some sort of tactical reserves, they're going to have to be pretty far out from your leader to get it. And if you can, you'll leverage it in such a way that they have to come out really far and are either out of range or still out of line of sight of your leader. All right, we've set up another little example here using the Orcs and our Cult of the Fanged Shadow. We're going to be focusing now, like I said, as I went over the different little leader options, I think of a Ural Kraus here as somewhere in between someone like Lumps and someone like a Harlequin player. He's somewhere in the middle here, where we're not necessarily wanting to jam him into combat constantly like we might want to with our Harlequin player, but he's somewhere in the middle, okay? So when you've deployed, he's a little bit forward in your deployment zone. He's nearby some melee scary guys. That's for a potential usage of lead by example. But he's also deployed with flexibility to be able to come over this way and get out of line of sight, or actually drop back maybe with a good advance and get further out. But depending on where your rolls go, your initiative roll, what your opponent does, for example, if your opponent gets initiative, charges in, makes it into combat here, now you're in a very good position where you can come around, charge. Now your leader is protected from shooting, and you can leverage that lead by example tactic, which we'll go over a bit more how to do so in just a minute. Or in the event that you don't get, or that your opponent doesn't get initiative, or perhaps fails the charge or something like that, let's say you get initiative, you're not going to realistically want to try that charge with your leader with such a valuable piece. So what you might do is you might drop him back. You might drop him back like this, get out of line of sight, and charge in with one guy to stuff up their works. Meanwhile, you've protected your leader and kept them safe. All right, now we've set up another example here of a different situation in which we can use our leader tactic. Now we're going to focus on Sister Juliet here. In this example, the opponent, the Harlequins, have gotten initiative for this round. They've landed a charge over here. They've landed a charge over here. And now you know that because you have been charged, that you're not going to get to strike with these models beforehand. So what you might want to do is you take your leader, okay? You charge in here, bam, and you think of the leader almost as a counter charge unit, okay? Because now, when you get to activate, now you have a charging model, okay, which in effect protects at least one other model here. Now, most likely, if your opponent is smart, they're going to take this model and swing at your leader, but that's a risk you have to take. But this is where you want to leverage this lead by example tactic, okay? Because let's say, for example, you might have 3 CP, right? You've saved a CP from the round before just to pull off this sort of tactic. So you charge in, you do a decisive strike with your leader here, even though you've charged. But so now you get to supersede the normal order of things. So you've charged in with your leader, you pay 2 CP for decisive strike, you get to strike first, and then you pay an additional CP for lead by example, meaning that you actually would get to swing with your Sister Repentia here as well before the Harlequin gets to strike. So you may not necessarily think that charging in your leader here is the best idea, but if you really need this model to survive and swing first, you can actually come in, decisive strike, and then lead by example, allowing both of these models to attack before this one gets to, thus taking what would be a pretty locked-in charge and fight for the Harlequins and turning it on its head. So we've got one more example set up here. This time we're going to be focusing on the Thousand Suns, okay? And in this example, you'll see they're arrayed against the Adeptus Mechanicus, okay? So in this example, it's perhaps a little bit later round. We've got a combat specialist here in our Zangor, probably a twist bray at that. So we've got a combat specialist. Now he has actually been charged by the AdMech, okay? We'll say they had top of initiative. These two are in combat from a previous turn, so they're still there, okay? And then now you've got your leader. All right, so once again, we're going to look to leverage the lead by example tactic, but we're also going to coincide it with the combat tactic up and at 'em, okay? So what would happen is we, of course, charge our leader in. Now we've made combat, okay? So it's the AdMech's initiative, okay? So they would get to swing one of their charging models. So they might swing their leader first, but you save it with your 5-up invuln, okay? Now, it's the Thousand Suns' time to strike, so you choose to activate your leader, okay? So your leader gets to fight, and you activate the lead by example tactic, meaning that you get to select another model to fight as well, so you get to fight with them. So you resolve here, you resolve here. Then you spend another command point for the combat tactic, up and atom. Use this tactic in the fight phase after attacking with a model from your kill team. Pick a combat specialist from your kill team that has not yet attacked this phase. You can immediately fight with them. So you go from getting charged here, being stuck in here, and having your leader out. For 2 CP, you get to fight with all 3 members that are in combat before your opponent gets to swing here or swing a second time over here. This is especially spicy if perhaps you have initiative and you have charged in here with your leader, meanwhile everyone else was in combat from a previous round. Then you get to do this and you just sweep through the field with your combats before your opponent can do anything. So that's it, guys. It's a pretty simple specialism, but if you use it right, you can actually surprise your opponent with it, especially if they're just expecting you to sit back and keep them safe. So if you like this video, please make sure to hit the thumbs up and let us know down in the comments what you thought. It really does help boost our viewing audience. And of course, if we missed something about the leader that you like to leverage in your games, please put it down in the comments for other people to learn from it, and of course for me to learn from it. And if you're interested in seeing these type of videos in your feed every week, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to support us, ways to do so in the description below. And we'll see you next week. Bye.